Long ago, in a land called Thrace, lived a man named Spartacus. Today, we know Thrace as part of modern-day Bulgaria, Greece, and Turkey. Spartacus was not born a slave. He was a free man, a brave and strong soldier. He likely served in the Roman army as an auxiliary, a soldier from a foreign land fighting for Rome. This experience taught him how the Romans fought, their strategies, and their weaknesses. He was a skilled warrior, respected by his comrades and feared by his enemies. His early life was one of freedom, where he learned the ways of battle and leadership, skills that would one day shake the very foundations of the Roman Republic. His life as a free man, however, did not last forever. The historical records from that time are not perfectly clear, but it seems Spartacus may have deserted the Roman army. Perhaps he disagreed with Rome's actions or longed for his homeland. Desertion was a serious crime, and for this he was captured. Instead of being executed, his captors saw his strength and skill. They knew a man like him could be valuable in another, more brutal way. He was sold into slavery, a terrible fate for any free person. His life changed from being a soldier for Rome to being property of Rome, a dramatic and cruel turn of events that set him on a new and dangerous path. Spartacus was sent to a gladiator school in Capua, a city in southern Italy. This school was owned by a man named Lentulus Batiatus. Here, slaves were trained to fight to the death for the entertainment of Roman crowds. The conditions were harsh and life was cheap. Gladiators were seen as less than human, mere tools for spectacle. Spartacus was forced to learn how to fight with different weapons, not for his country or for honor, but for the amusement of others. He lived with the constant threat of a violent death in the sandy arena, a place where only the strongest and most ruthless could hope to survive for long. Inside the gladiator school, Spartacus was not alone. He was surrounded by other men who had also been stripped of their freedom and dignity. They came from different lands like Gaul and Germany, and they were all strong fighters. They shared a common misery and a burning desire for freedom. Spartacus saw this shared wish. He began to think about a way out, not just for himself, but for all of them. He knew that their combined strength was far greater than their individual chances of survival in the arena. The idea of a rebellion, a fight for freedom, began to grow in his mind, a dangerous seed planted in the brutal soil of Capua. The plan for escape was simple but incredibly risky. In 73 BC, Spartacus and about 70 other gladiators decided they would rather die fighting for freedom than for sport. They armed themselves with whatever they could find in the gladiator school's kitchen. They grabbed knives, spits, and any other sharp tools. With these crude weapons, they fought their way past their guards and out of the school. Once they were free on the streets of Capua, they found a wagon filled with real gladiator weapons and armor. Now properly armed, they were no longer just escaped slaves. They were a small, determined band of rebels, ready to challenge the might of Rome. News of the escape spread like wildfire. The small group of gladiators fled to the slopes of Mount Vesuvius, a large volcano overlooking the Bay of Naples. This was a smart move. The mountain provided a natural fortress, a place where they could defend themselves and see their enemies coming from far away. As word got out about the successful breakout, other runaway slaves from the surrounding countryside began to flock to their side. Field hands, shepherds, and other people who had suffered under Roman slavery saw a chance for a new life. Spartacus's small band of rebels began to grow into a real army of the oppressed. The Romans in Capua did not take the threat seriously at first. They thought it was just a small problem, a minor disturbance that could be easily handled. They sent a small military force, a militia of about 3,000 men led by a commander named Gaius Claudius Glaber. The Romans did not even bother to build a proper camp. They simply blocked the only known path down the mountain, thinking they could starve Spartacus and his followers into surrender. They underestimated the gladiators' cleverness and their desperate will to survive. This arrogance would prove to be a grave mistake for the Roman forces. Spartacus showed his brilliance as a leader. He saw that the Roman soldiers were not expecting an attack from any other direction. He ordered his men to make long ropes and ladders from the wild vines that grew on the cliffs of Mount Vesuvius. Under the cover of darkness, Spartacus and his army quietly climbed down the unguarded side of the mountain. They circled around and launched a surprise attack on the Roman camp from behind. The Roman soldiers were completely unprepared and were defeated easily. This stunning victory armed the rebels with proper Roman weapons and armor, and it sent a powerful message. The slave army was a force to be reckoned with. After the victory at Mount Vesuvius, the slave army grew rapidly. Thousands more joined their cause, swelling their numbers to tens of thousands. Spartacus was not the only leader. He shared command with two Gauls named Crixus and Oenomaus. Together, they led their diverse army across the Italian countryside. They spent the winter of 73 to 72 BC training their new recruits, turning desperate slaves into disciplined soldiers. They raided estates and towns, gathering more supplies, weapons, and followers. For the first time, the slaves of Italy had hope, a powerful weapon that Rome could not easily defeat. Their success created panic throughout the region. In the spring of 72 BC, the Roman Senate finally understood the seriousness of the threat. They sent two full legions, a powerful force led by two consuls, the highest elected officials in Rome. The slave army had split into two groups. Crixus, leading a separate force, was cornered and defeated by the Romans. It was a major blow, but Spartacus did not falter. He met the remaining Roman legions in battle, and using his superior tactics, he defeated both of them one after the other. It was a remarkable achievement. A former slave had outmaneuvered and defeated the best armies that the Roman Republic could send against him. Spartacus then led his army north, marching towards the Alps. His goal was likely to lead his people out of Italy, over the mountains, and back to their homelands in Gaul and Thrace. He wanted to give them a chance to be free again. He defeated another Roman army that tried to block his path near a place called Mutina. The road to freedom was open. His followers could have escaped Italy and returned to their homes. The path across the Alps was clear, and they were on the verge of achieving their ultimate goal of leaving Roman territory behind them for good. For reasons that historians still debate, Spartacus and his army turned back. They did not cross the Alps. Instead, they marched south again, back through the heart of Italy. Perhaps his followers, confident after so many victories, wanted to continue plundering the rich lands of Italy. Maybe they believed they could even march on the city of Rome itself. Whatever the reason, this decision to turn around was a fateful one. It meant they would have to face another, even more powerful Roman army, one led by a rich and ruthless commander who was determined to crush their rebellion once and for all. The Roman Senate, now desperate, gave command of the war to Marcus Licinius Crassus, the wealthiest man in Rome. Crassus was ambitious and cruel, and he raised a new army of 8 legions. He was determined to succeed where others had failed. He pursued Spartacus and his army to the southern tip of Italy. There, Crassus built a massive wall and a ditch, trapping the slave army in the toe of Italy. He planned to starve them out. Spartacus and his men were in a desperate situation, with the sea on 3 sides and Crassus's formidable wall on the 4th. Their long march for freedom seemed to be coming to a tragic end. Even when trapped, Spartacus did not give up. During a fierce winter storm, he and his army managed to break through Crassus's fortifications. It was a costly and difficult battle, but a portion of his army escaped the trap. However, the rebellion was starting to fall apart. Some of his followers broke away, only to be hunted down and destroyed by Crassus. The final battle took place in 71 BC in Lucania. The slave army, exhausted and outnumbered, made their last stand. Spartacus fought bravely at the front, reportedly trying to reach Crassus himself. He was killed in the chaos of the battle, and with his death, the heart of the rebellion was gone. The Roman revenge was terrible and swift. Crassus wanted to make an example of the defeated slaves to ensure no one would ever dare to rebel again. He captured 6,000 survivors of the final battle. He did not grant them a quick death. Instead, he had all of them crucified. Their bodies were hung on crosses all along the Appian Way, the main road leading from Capua to Rome. For miles and miles, the crucified rebels served as a horrific warning to every slave and every person who might dream of defying the power of Rome. It was a brutal end to a 3-year struggle for freedom. Although the revolt was crushed, the story of Spartacus was never forgotten. He became a symbol of the fight for freedom against oppression. For centuries, his name has inspired people who struggle against injustice. He was not just a gladiator, he was a brilliant military leader who united a diverse group of people and challenged one of the greatest empires in history. While the Romans wanted his memory to be a warning about the price of failure, history has remembered him as a hero. His courage and his fight for dignity continue to inspire books, movies, and movements for freedom around the world today.